I'm experiencing a moment of sadness. I was raised with a family of all boys. I had no sisters. And when there's meetings held for men in general, you get half as many as you're hoping for. And when you have with women, you get twice as many as you're hoping for. And so we're still learning how to do this correctly. I'm going to give you a little bit of background, and then I'm going to talk about other people and other things. I was raised on the Mormon conveyor belt. Do I need to explain that to anybody? Deacon, teacher, priest, dumping the missionary training center, things like that. And so, you know, a lot of you here in Utah, here in Davis County, are just, this is normal life. This is just what you do. Mom says, we're going to a meeting on Saturday morning. Isn't that lovely? And you go, great. And you try to fight with her just a little bit, and you know where that's going, right? Ain't gonna happen. When mom's got her mind on something, we're doing this. In fact, that personality characteristic of mothers and women has been something I've learned to treasure, to value, but I wasn't used to it. Being raised on a farm in Idaho, I didn't know what was really going on in the world. I didn't really know what was going on for women. I didn't really know what was going on for men either. They threw me into inner city Detroit after being raised in Idaho, and that was an interesting experience. That's where my name changed from Maurice to Maurice, if you say it correctly. It's where I became black, if you can't tell. If you're wondering why I'm so dark-skinned. But I was one of those enthusiastic young missionaries trying to get it all right, and nobody cared. They didn't want to listen, and so they asked me a question I wasn't ready for. They asked me the question, Edahaka, which is Elder Harker in English. Edahaka, can you explain? Anybody know what that word means? Explain? Explain. Can you explain to us what this stuff has to do with reality? And they didn't answer that question in the Missionary Training Center. They didn't tell us how what we teach actually is useful. If you're a normal Utah teenager, you might have already asked yourself the question, Mom, why are we going to these meetings or church-type things? They're not really useful. We just repeat the same thing over and over again, and it's boring, and all decisions should be based on whether or not something's boring. Right? I saw that in a scripture somewhere. I want one of you to look it up on your iTouch. Oh, iPad. So let me know if you find that scripture. Decisions should be based on whether or not it's boring. Good luck with that. But that was a scary day for me because I didn't know how to be useful to people. I didn't know how to share information, share things I'd been taught. And for a while there, for about a quarter of my time in Detroit, I actually considered not being a Mormon. I actually considered not following those things because I didn't know if it was useful or not. So I spent years. After that, I actually figured out how it could be useful there. And when I got home, I did the normal return missionary crash and burn. I don't need to get into a whole lot of detail about that, but it was pretty painful, pretty scary. But the question came back, what's useful? Is it useful? How can I find out what's useful to actually make a person's life better? And so I chose to go to the University of Utah for school because they claim to be the more open-minded ones, not like those people at BYU. You know what I'm saying? Any BYU fans in the room that are offended by that? They claim to be the ones, they wanted us to take everything into consideration that affects the human mind. You know, what affects your human mind? And I was excited about that open-ended approach to it until I found out that I asked the question, so when do we start talking about how spiritual things affect human psychology? And they says, well, except for that, because that's not real. Spiritual things are just things people make up in their heads. And as teenagers, have you ever wondered if your parents, your mom, or someone's just making stuff up? You know, are you guys crazy? You just make stuff up all the time. These ideas, these rules, these principles, these concepts. I had by then experienced some legitimate psychological experiences that I couldn't ignore, and I needed to find out how they affected, and I wanted to approach it on a more scientific level the scientific application of spiritual principles. It was during that time that I found out that God is a good psychologist. It's one of the most important discoveries I made, and I was amazed that I didn't read that anywhere else before. It's like, first of all, I couldn't find any chapter in a textbook that said God is a good psychologist. I also found out that prophets are smarter than scientists. Imagine reading a textbook that says at the end of it, and by the way, if you hear anything that a prophet says that contradicts what this textbook says, listen to the prophet instead of the textbook. Okay? You're probably not going to get that. But, and so I use those principles or use those ideas that God is a good psychologist and that prophets are smarter than scientists to start to really understand psychology and really understand principles that actually make a difference. They didn't tell us this until the end of graduate school, that most psychology philosophies and principles are only useful 70% of the time. That leaves 30% of the time. And I says, what about the 30%? And they says, well, 20% won't really have any effect on your clients, and 10% might cause brain damage. So good luck. That was what we learned in school. Okay? If you subject yourself to something that's only academic, you're at risk. And so be careful, young people, as you do your study of life principles and life concepts. If you're studying something based on science, make sure you read the fine print that says this is only accurate this certain percentage of the time. And so you're going to need to learn something a little more than that. You're going to learn how to gain an understanding of what's actually going to make a difference in your life, and I'm going to lead up to that. I don't know if any of you have hit this phase of life yet. Some of you young ones might be a little early in this phase, but have you ever really dedicated yourself to something and then you can't follow through on it? You make a promise to yourself and you can't follow. You just, this time I'm going to get it right. This time I'm going to get it right. I'm totally dedicated to it. I'm not going to fall apart this time. And you get all motivated and excited, and then it falls apart and you bang your head against something. You go, oh my gosh. Okay? Moms don't ever experience this, right? When was the last time mom admitted she did something wrong? Yeah? No. I have no memory of that. Okay? But in my experience with interviewing women and mothers, they are very aware of their flaws and weaknesses. They're very aware of them, and they're very painful. Why do smart people do stupid things? Why do mothers not able to control and grasp what's going on for them? Why do you get dedicated and committed to something you can't quite follow through on it? This became the major question I had. And after a 3-year research project, I found out that Satan is a good psychologist. 7,000 years of perfecting the art of messing with the human mind. Now, the reason I'm especially grateful for some women you're going to meet today, you've already met Mindy, you're going to meet Jennifer, and you're going to meet Karen today. I've spent 25 years focusing all of my attention on mostly the struggles that men have with the ability to make wise choices and follow through on them. The women you're going to hear from today have been focusing on how hard it is for the women and what you go through. I have tried really hard to comprehend what you go through, but I can't quite reach it yet. My spiritual gifts are secluded to a certain category about misbehaviors, and I'm going to let the ladies teach you about how Satan gets you to do bad things or things that go against your value system. But I am going to give you what I've worked hard, I hope, to become a healthy man's perspective of who you are and what role you represent in our lives. As I entered marriage and as I entered adult life, I had a lot of twisted visions of what women were about and what they were for. And I've given my wife some struggles with my inaccurate paradigms. You see, when you find out that Satan is a good psychologist and you get really familiar with what he does to men's brains, there seems to be a not clean cut, but a significant contrast. With men, he tends to use the technique we call temptation. It happens to women as well. But with you ladies, the primary satanic attack technique is torment. Torment. I have a daughter, 13 years old. I know at least one of you in the room who knows her. And would it surprise you to find out that this girl who just got voted in as a cheerleader at the local junior high and looks like a miniature version of Taylor Swift comes home and says, "Why do I have to be so ugly?" Any of you ever hear that voice in your head? I'm such a disappointment. It's too bad the other ladies do it better than I do. How do I know for sure? Because my husband told me so. Not in words, just kind of implies it. Okay? As I've gained a true testimony of, and I'm still young enough to be missing a few pieces of the puzzle, as I think about, after 22 years of marriage, what role my wife plays in my life when she's gone to Girl Scout camp or something like that, and how different the home feels when she's not there. Everything's black and white and two-dimensional when she's gone. When she's not there, things lack color, they lack dimension, they lack value, they lack essence. The hard thing that is hard to communicate to her and others like the women you're going to meet today is, she goes, "I don't even say anything that matters." And I go, "You don't have to say anything that matters. Your presence, your state of being." I was very grateful for the inspiration the young women's leaders got in our ward for this Girl Scout camp this last, a few weeks ago, where they focused on being. They focused on how the President Hinckley's concepts of being. Ladies, one of the hardest things that you're going to deal with in your satanic torment is that you're going to be measuring what you're doing. You're going to be looking at, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? What am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? When those who value your presence, it's not about what you do. It's about the fact that you're just there, that you're creating. You know, when we talk to the guys and we talk about what's it like when women are not present, the only thing we can come to, has any of you ever read that book from English class, Lord of the Flies? Okay. The short version of that book is a bunch of young men were left on an island by themselves, and within 7 days they were killing each other. So I don't know if that's close to the right, but as far as I can tell, that's actually a true story. Having a family of all brothers, if my mother wasn't there, jeez. I remember she established the rule once, as long as no one's bleeding, you guys can keep fighting. Anyway. She had a very farm girl attitude about such things. But even hers, it was fascinating to watch her as she went through her. She became 30, 35 years old, and I was just coming of age, watching her insist on fine-tuning her own femininity, insist on being a woman in the middle of this knuckle-dragging chaos of masculinity, testosterone all over the place. Watching us go into church, and we would always walk into the second row, and we like those birds that walk in a row, and you got the 2-year-old, the 4-year-old, the 6-year-old, the 8-year-old, that did all the way up to the 18-year-old, and then mom, who looks beamy and shiny, and I don't know how she pulled that off. Okay, you know, and so. One of the techniques that Satan uses. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this with youth, and bear with us. You're going to hear a theme from us. My work has been, I'm aware that there are spiritual leaders in the community. I'm aware that there are those who are going to teach you how to build temples emotionally, psychologically. I use a lot of Nephite, Lamanite analogies. And so there's a lot of people in your life that are going to teach you how to build glorious buildings and make good things happen. Okay? That's not my specialty. What I do is I try to use Captain Moroni as my example. My job is to study the enemy so that he doesn't slaughter you, so he doesn't destroy you. I'm a military scout. So the theme you're going to get a lot of is, we believe that your spirit is good and your spirit is strong and that you will automatically do good if you don't get wiped out, if you don't get tricked, if you don't get slammed to the ground. And so you can use your church and your scriptures and leaders there. What we hope to give you is something you don't have. Because what really frustrated me with my development in educational years was I was told over and over again, watch out for Satan, watch out for Satan, watch out for Satan, but nobody told me how to see him. Nobody told me what he was going to do. I felt like a kid who just showed up on the beaches of Vietnam. They handed me a gun and they says, run into that forest and watch out for the bad guys. And I'm all, okay, what are they going to do to me? We're not sure. Just watch out for them. Our goal has been to teach you how to use infrared glasses, to teach you how to use motion detectors, to teach you all sorts of things. And Mindy and her team are specialists in this, okay? They're specialists in teaching women how to be aware of what's creeping up on them. Let me give you an example, okay? All right, let's all pretend we're tough and we got a helmet on and you're in a ditch somewhere, okay? And all the guys that know what they're doing are dead, okay? And you still got a bunch of people that you're in charge of. How you liking that image? Is that lovely? Lovely, right? Okay. You got a lot of confidence, but you got some anxiety, and so you're trying to figure out what to do, and your radio crackles. Radio crackles, and you go, oh, someone who's going to talk to me, someone who's going to help me out here. So some guy on the radio with a voice that sounds like he's from Texas says, man, it looks like you're in a really tough situation. I'd hate to be you. Really? Man, is there a woman there I can talk to? Anyway, he said, are you going to make fun of me or are you going to help us out here? He said, oh, sure, I'll help you out. Just go here, 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 and here. You'll be fine. Thank you. Okay? So you start following his instructions. You're halfway out. The enemy jumps out of the bushes and kills all your people. And right before they kill you, you say, rude. No, that's not what you say. I would attack them, right? But here's the problem. The guy, the leader of their team, right before he kills you, shows you the American radio he stole the other day and talks to you as if he's from Texas. What's the trick? Did you catch it? What did he do?
He tricks you into coming out in the open.
Isn't that rude?
Yes.
So shouldn't you say rude? Like it's going to make a difference, right? That's the problem. You know, in our training, this is the other thing you're going to learn from Mindy and her team is that women, the biggest mistake they make sometimes in fights, psychological fights with the dark side, is they don't fight vicious enough. Okay? They're sweet about it. Let me try to do a role play of a woman's head. You ready for this? I got to get in the zone. There I am, minding my own business, walking through the halls of the school. Man, it's too bad you're so ugly. Well, that was rude. Well, look around. Take a look. Can't you tell? Well, you've kind of got a point there. You know, remember this morning when you were in front of the mirror and you were doing all that thing where you're covering up all those things on your face, you know? Everyone can see them. Really? Oh my gosh. You need to hide. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. You're such a good friend to make sure I don't embarrass myself. Is that close? How'd I do? I hate it when I can do that. All right. Okay, now I want you to change the story, okay? And pretend you're in the hall with your girlfriend, one of your besties, whatever you call them these days, BFFs, best friend. Thank you, Amy. Okay? All right. And you're walking along, and she's your best friend. And then all of a sudden some person walks up to your friend and says, it's too bad you're looking so ugly today. I'd be embarrassed if I was wearing that in public. Emily, what did you just feel? Huh? Rude. Is that all you say?
I'd probably be the friend. I'd probably be the person next to her. I'd probably assume
Shoo him away. Shoo, 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 shoo. And what if that person says, is this your bestie, your sister, or what?
Yeah, she's pretty close.
Pretty close. Okay, Emily. What if the person says, Emily, I'm just trying to help your friend out here, okay? You need to back off because you're not helping much here. So why don't you shoo so I can talk serious, important talk to your friend here because she really is ugly. Okay, what are you feeling, ladies? Upset? Any adult women want to answer that question? Angry? What do you want to do? Punch him? So, let me see if I understand you right. As her friend, you want to lie to her. You want her to feel good when she shouldn't. I've got documentable proof. Look, 7 pictures next to each other. She's the ugliest one in the group. I'm a true friend because I'm telling her the truth.
Well, if you quit picking models as the other pictures, then she'd be the ugliest one.
Now, notice what I did. I just caught you in a satanic conversation. Okay? You were talking to him instead of what you should be doing, which is kicking his trash. Okay? Because what happens, here's another little scenario for you. You're there, you are, taking care of your kids, doing your normal home thing, okay? Husband's off to war. Hope he's doing his job right. Da-da-da-da. You get a knock at the door. Open the door. Lamanites. Hi, wow. I thought you guys were out there.
I would slam the door.
I know, right? We are here. We've already killed your husband. We are here to take your children for our slaves. Okay?
I would have
You wouldn't chat about it? Well, I'm not comfortable with that. It's a little disturbing to me that you would even consider that.
Why would anyone want to talk about that?
Why would anybody want to talk about? Amy, you're brilliant. How old are you?
13.
Okay, can I use you as an example for a second? A 13-year-old gets it. Why would you talk about it? Why would you have this conversation? Why would you let it go on in your head and try to negotiate, discuss, figure out? Is the dark side coming there to help you out by understanding what's really going on? But he tells you the truth, and women have a tendency to be very responsible, which means I'm going to take every conversation in my head seriously. If it comes in, it's important. And we will not be throwing anything away. Because if someone drives up to my front porch and pours a load of manure on my porch, I need to sift it for gold. They wouldn't do that unless there was something important in it. Okay? What?
There's no gold in manure.
There's no gold in manure. Amy's a genius.
Going into 8th grade, I already knew that.
How come Amy knows that there's no gold in manure, but many adult women don't? Okay. Thank you, Amy. You're my bestie. Okay. What we hope to do, what we hope to teach you about, what we hope to train you, and we're only going to be able to give you an introduction today. Amy and Karen and Jennifer are going to begin the process of teaching you how to tell when someone's trying to squish a little crud into your head, to sense it. You have a gift, you have an awareness that we men have to do a lot of work to discover, that subtle sensation that something's wrong. You're so good, as Emily demonstrated, you're so good at noticing it when it's happening to one of your girlfriends. You're so good at telling when it's happening to somebody else. You have to learn how to notice when it's happening to you. You got to split your brain into 2 pieces. One is the little girl inside of you, the innocent one, the sweet one, the Amy that's inside of you, that gets it, that understands, that wants to be sweet and pleasant and nice and courteous and kind. And then you have another side of you. Okay, ladies, if you're at the playground or something like that, you turn your head for a second, you turn around and some guy's got your kid tucked under his arm running to his car. Any questions on how to handle that situation? Do you need a handbook? You take him down. What if he's bigger than you? Did you feel that? That's called mother bear chemistry. It's a chemical reaction. There's tons of science behind it. The next time Satan gets in your head and says, "It's too bad you're so pathetic," pretend he just said that to your kid. Pretend he just said it to your sister, to your best friend, and take him by the head and bang his head on a rock and say, "Nobody." Perhaps you've even heard the phrase, "He will have power to bruise your heel, but you will have power to shoo him away." Isn't that interesting? Shouldn't they have said, "Shoo him away"? Because that's what courteous women do. They do not crush people's heads. How inappropriate. Is there a time and a place to tackle a guy and crush his head?
Yes.
Is it possible that that could be going on in your head and you should be doing it a little more often? Okay. I'm going to turn the time back over to these ladies. You're going to be inspired, and then you're going to have a really cool experience at the end of this. You're going to meet some young men that are freaking rock stars, okay?